example, where there seems to be a never-ending supply of quality talent and of people getting into DJing and live music production and performance, you have to stand out somehow. And in my eyes, the best way to stand out is to be involved with the community that the promoter or that the party that you want to play is a part of or is involved in.
All right, everyone. Welcome again to another Artist Map and Faculty of Electronic Music YouTube video series. And today we have a special guest, Marco.
Hello.
Hello. I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'll go ahead and add on top of what you missed.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Marco. I'm the Chief Growth Officer and Events Director at 6 a.m. And I'm also the owner and founder of Synthetic Minds. And through both of these positions, I work on a series of techno events in Los Angeles under different brands, such as the Work Warehouse series, Compound, and Reform.
Yeah, and I will go ahead and add that being also the main talent buyer as well, on top of being involved. And that's why we have you here today. It is a burning question that every artist, at least DJs, want to unveil, want to understand more of, really want to get, some answers. And that is, how does an artist, an up and coming artist get booked? And to give everyone context, Marco not only buys talent for our headliners, but he also books local acts that supports the night, that kind of ensures the music has some sort of story and journey. And so, through multiple, experiences, really from the openers and the supports and the closers, what do you look for in terms of booking talent, and what tips and advice can you give to our audience who, would love to ask you that question? So take it away.
It's $1 million question, I suppose. There is no straight answer, I would say. There's definitely like best practices, if you will, that are going to give you the better chance of getting booked. And also it depends who is booking you. But I can definitely speak from, my role with regards to our events. For me, it's very, very important, obviously, that the artists have quality, regardless of whether they've been DJing for a long time or a short time, or playing live for a long time or a short time. The first thing that we look for is that the artist is able to deliver a quality performance. Of course, that means that the artist has put in their work in the studio, has been practicing, has been playing out, and has gotten to a level where they can play at least our kind of events, which generally feature internationally touring artists. It's difficult, for example, to book somebody to support a big international touring artist who has never played a gig out, in front of a crowd, or has no experience playing in front of a crowd at a proper event. At least for the kind of events that we do. Of course, that may be different, I would say, for different promoters. So that's, I think, obviously the quality of the artistry that the artist is able to deliver is first and foremost. But I would say that in a city like Los Angeles, for example, where there seems to be a never-ending supply of quality talent and of people getting into DJing and live music production and performance, you have to stand out somehow. And in my eyes, the best way to stand out is to be involved with the community that the promoter or that the party that you want to play is a part of or is involved in. So for me, if we're doing 20 to 30 parties in a given year, and there's a pool of 50 really talented LA artists that I could be booking, who's going to stand out to me more? Who am I more inclined to support by giving them a gig that could also give them a trajectory on their career? And that tends to be people that are coming to our events, that are active online. Maybe they're active by creating their own sub-community, doing their own events, doing their own things in the LA techno scene. And that, of course, could apply to whatever market we're talking about. So I think those two are the main two things that we look for. But then third, what's also really important is that the person that we're supporting and that we're involving in our community and with our brand also follows some basic principles that we hold really dear at 6 a.m. and with our events, which are covered. There's an article that you wrote, Gia, actually, and that I helped edit, called The 10 Principles of the Electronic Music Industry. And it's basically an article that covers just 10 very basic attributes and qualities that we believe anybody should have to for the electronic music industry to prosper as a community. And that includes things such as being a good person, doing good by others, doing things for others without expecting things in return. Again, being involved in the community, just very basic principles that align with basically the principles of our own event and our own community. And if you kind of hit this trifecta, at some point it's very likely that you're going to get a performance at one of our events.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I think to break it down, number one, you got to practice. You got to actually have the skill sets. You cannot fake your way. You cannot get the gig and train wreck, which has happened to artists. And guess what happens to them after that? They don't get booked ever again. Same thing with submitting mixes too. Like, don't submit a mix that train wrecks, because you get one shot. Really that Eminem. Number two, I think, being involved in the community, right? I mean, you got to really understand, like, well, don't just want to play the party for the sake of, well, I want that gig. Like, does your sound even fit? Does your personality and vibe fit with the people that, are supporting the event? I think that's really important as well. And I think one thing that I would like to encourage is that if all three of the things I'll check out, sometimes, from the artist perspective, it doesn't hurt to ask humbly.
No.
Sometimes I think only if all three checks out, that, hey, you're truly ready, you've been playing out, the opportunity seems fitting, it's okay to take a no too. You get stronger as well, but sometimes you do get a yes. And just coming from personal experience, I don't know if you guys have anything else to add, Gino, Kevin, regarding Marco's answer, which was fantastic, by the way. I'm glad we're getting this on video. Yeah.
I totally. I mean, I've never really been in the situation of looking for artists to book. I mean, here and there when I have my own events, but very short in between on who I'm going to book. But I know one quality I've always looked for is whether or not. I mean, here's a big problem. A lot of cities in Canada that I've come across, actually everywhere. I think we even. I don't know if I should say that, is when openers, a lot of openers get way too excited, and maybe they may not train wreck, but they'll just, there's 20 people inside the place, and they just open and they're playing full volume, full BPM, full. And that's one thing I appreciate from Stereo, was that Stereo always they made it known, I think globally, that their openers have to be perfect, And like Ostrich, he's always been my mentor. And like I love how he opens. He opens tonight with atmospheric sounds, and then slowly turns into jungle, and then it goes into the direction that whatever direction he's going into. But it's always such a proper opening. And I think that that's one thing that people that are looking for beginning openings, beginning gigs, like earlier in the career, should really take it seriously how they open, and understand that if they get too excited, it could hinder their relationship with the club in the future.
I agree, and I sometimes I don't think that they're too excited. I think that they're too one-dimensional in their approach to DJing.
Yeah.
The classic examples happening like with today's techno scene, the popularity of the harder, ravier, faster BPM sound. A lot of people are now gravitating towards that, which is completely fine. But you have a lot of local acts that think that is what they're going to be doing. They're going to be getting booked, and they're going to be playing 145 BPM. And it's like, well, wait a second. Like, you're not closing. Even then, you're not peak time slot. You're opening, like you said, you're opening the room. That means at the beginning of your set, there's nobody there. And that means that possibly for the first hour, there may be only 20, 50, 70 people in a room that fits 700, let's say. And so the set needs to match the vibe. It needs to match the dance floor. If you are unable to play anything except your bangers, then it goes back to point number one, that you gotta practice. You gotta learn
range.
That's the DJ skill that you gotta have. You gotta have range, because I've seen that happen. I've also seen DJs arrive with only 1 hour, 1 hour of music ready to play, and then we need them to play 30 extra minutes, and they panic because they don't have music to play. And I'm like, what do you mean you have no music?
They're asking Marco, don't you have a USB, bro?
On what planet you come for a gig with only? That means that you also were never ready to go in any other direction during your set other than that exact playlist that you prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I'm not saying that it's the same as a pre-recorded set. It's not. You are DJing and mixing live, and it's okay to prepare some playlists and have a general direction of what you want to perform on the night. But there's a crowd in front of you. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how they're going to react, and you should be prepared to adjust your set accordingly and take them on a journey according to the way that they're reacting to your performance.
Yeah. And it goes back to understanding the party you want to play, you want to open and support. I mean, that goes with it. Well, you won't come to any of our parties and hear, 145 BPM openers. I mean, has that happened before? Maybe it was, right? But like it
happened to me for like when I go play in other states or whatever, I've walked in like half an hour before my show, and they're like slamming, and I was like, oh my god. And sometimes I've gone even early, just the beginning of the night. If I'm the promoter, I'll go early, and like slamming it, and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
But also, I find it's going to hurt the bar sales too, because what you do generally is I don't want to have the volume a little lower. People could chit chat, have their drinks, loosen up, and they get excited as their vibe changes, and again they loosen up more. It's a whole gradual effect between the DJ and the audience. Even if you're doing it all night, if you're doing open to close like a stereo, we do that often, right? And you're opening to close at the beginning of the night. Still, even though you're headlining the whole night, you're gonna play low, calm, let people come in, chill, say hello, say hi, and as they start to get loosened up, start to bring it in, and build that set.
Exactly. No, it's important.
The analogy that you made between the open and close, like if you're, even the hard techno artists that I know personally, 9 times 9, I Am Model, when they played open and close FIAC, they're playing ambient to begin, atmospheric tracks. They're doing deep techno stuff they would never. That's why they love playing those sets, is because they can finally play something a little bit different than the 2 hours of banging stuff that they may always get booked to play. Similarly, I think the opener needs to stop thinking just about themselves and think about the whole night, what they're trying to deliver as part of the whole night to the audience. And if you think with that altruistic viewpoint of focusing on the dance floor and the experience that you want to give to the crowd, then you're able to structure your set, the sound, the direction, the BPM, the levels, the genre that you're going to be playing accordingly. Yeah.
I think a challenge that we can actually put on YouTube is, the next time you practice wherever, try to, play different situations, opening, extended opening, right? What happens if after an hour that you organize your tracks, the promoter comes and says, hey, the DJ's not, here. And that's happened before to me, where I had to just keep playing and how terrible of an opportunity to miss when.
Exactly, because you could be playing instead of the headliner. This has happened before, or at least an hour extra when the room is fully packed.
Yeah.
You've only ever played to a half empty room. Suddenly this is it. And what the promoter hears is a horrifying response. This adds anxiety, and suddenly it's like you're going to the crowd trying to find a different DJ that brother you was kidding aside, but it's happened. So you got to always be ready. I think that's the other thing. Like it's always be ready, because you never know when this opportunity is going to come knocking in whichever form. And so if you're ready, if you've been practicing, if you've been present, if you are honing your craft and you're active, you're always ready, that opportunity may come when you least suspect it. Maybe you asked me for a gig a year ago, I didn't give you one, and suddenly for whatever reason it's like, okay, it's your turn.
Yeah, because you start to see him, her, they start to be more active and around me. We literally have these conversations like, hey, they're doing something pretty cool. I think the time is ripe. Let's get them involved. So, sharing some real live, examples of how we book our supporting acts and DJs. So you always got to stay ready and put in the work. Now, Gino, I want to ask you, as you're coming up, I mean, how did you approach promoters, or did you just always get gigs?
Well, what I tell my students in my experience was I never approached anyone. My from the beginning up until now is I've always thought that my success came through zero expectations. I felt like the more I expected nothing, the more things worked out. And when I did expect something, it just didn't work out for me. So I avoided that the most I could. And my gigs really started to come in when I took Unity's advice. I even felt like a bit guilty doing this, though, is when like when I had a couple of tracks that really were played by everybody, Damien was like, post the videos, like in a sense, like shove it in everybody's face, not like do it humbly, but post it everywhere, over and over. Let's play my track, video here, video here, video here, video here. And when I started doing that, I started to get attention from bookers, a lot in South America and the United States, Canada, whatnot. And then they started contacting Anthony Turbano at the time, and that's how it all started.
Gotcha.
Inside Montreal, though, I know for a fact, like, everyone here wants to play stereo, right? And how that happened, Nader always tells me, is I would show my obsessive approach to production. Every day I would just post my screen. Even though it's low, it's not the greatest quality and there's better ways to do it, I was just so excited for what I made that I would record my screen of a loop of the track I made. And every day it would be a new loop, be a new track. And it got and Nader noticed this, and he said that he eventually started booking me because he saw how my relentless approach to creating music. It's never stopped.
Yeah.
So it goes
back to number one.
Yeah.
You got to keep doing the work. You got to keep doing the work and being active, not only out in the community, but in the studio. Not only in the studio, but out in the community.
Yeah.
And I think those are two very important things. And I will say, Gino, that you mentioned that relentless approach, and I think that genuine relentless approach is super important because there's also a lot of people that are too shy. They feel like if they put themselves out there too much, it goes against who they are. But at the same time, it's like, again, you're competing against 50 plus people or more,
hundreds,
that all trying to get
millions
gig. And I can say, for example, with at least with our events, as a great example, we only do 20, 30 parties a year, right? Out of those 20, 30, they're not all the same kind of techno. Some of them are progressive house, number one, minority, but then we have techno. Some of them are more melodic. Some of them are hard. Some of them are deep and hypnotic. Some of them are driving. So there are different artists that can play that fit with each one. So that narrows the number of gigs you could play for a 6M show in LA from even the original 30. And then some of them were partnering with other promoters, and they had their picks of who they want to open, and that narrows it down even further. You mentioned stereo in Montreal. Everybody wants to play stereo. I also think it's important to not only try to have your first gig at the top promoter of your city or of your area. It's like you're going to get noticed if you're playing other smaller events.
100%.
Also,
exactly.
That is super important because a lot of people come up to me and they want their first gig to be at the Work Warehouse, or Compound, or Reform, and I'm like, look, there's these people that have been playing for years and they're now getting it, and you're expecting there's other parties, and maybe you don't think that they're as cool, and it doesn't matter. Because help get involved, help make them a good party, be involved in those smaller communities too. Because
so
they're
true.
Part of the overall community in the city, and I think that's the point that's often overlooked.
Yep, all the big gigs came from accumulation of the smaller gigs, and you promote hard and you put yourself out there. So and I also want to add, making music and getting supported by artists, that's also a quick way. And it just goes back to phase one as well. Like, what is your mindset and approach to all of this, right? And then putting in the work, and then what you added, Marco, to getting involved, working on yourself, add all those together. And I think, Gino, that's exactly what you did too. I mean, hearing you explain your journey, 1, 2, and 3 checks out. So, yeah.
I have a quick question. Is my mic working?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I didn't get the thing.
The mic works.
Perfect. So for people who are, I know there's a ton of people out there who are just, they just did bedroom DJing or private party DJing and whatnot. And Marco, you did mention about getting involved in the smaller groups and trying to help support them as well. To even break into that point, for those guys who have zero public presence at all, what would you recommend for them to do in addition to trying to support these smaller communities? Maybe is it just go to open deck nights and stuff like that, or is there other things you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, you got to start somewhere. It's whether it's going to open deck nights, whether it's showing up at this other smaller parties, being involved, getting seen. like Gina was saying, putting your content on social media so people know that you're like, if you're a sick ass producer, let's see it. If you're not a producer, that's okay. You don't have to be a producer to play. You could be a DJ without being a producer, but then what as a DJ are you bringing to the table? How are your DJ skills? Not only track selection and the journey that you're building, but like, are you just mixing 2 tracks and that's it? Are you layering tracks and effects? Are you, what is it that you're doing that is different? Again, going back to point number 1, practice, practice, practice. Like if you really got the skills, whether you're showcasing them live or whether you're showcasing on social media, which today is a super powerful platform, and we saw that during the pandemic especially, people will notice. I think invariably, sooner or later, people will notice. You got to keep going, not get discouraged, and keep at it. And of course, the more approaches that you take, being present, going to workshops, going to open deck nights, going to smaller parties,
submitting guest mixes online, smaller podcasts that's available.
Absolutely. Yeah. Doing your own party, throwing your own, one-up, whatever it is that you may be doing. As long as you're doing something and you're doing something consistently, eventually you will be noticed.
Yeah.
That does bring me to another thing. It's like, it can happen that despite all of this, you still feel like you're not getting the platform you deserve. Again, it is possible. There's so many DJs out there. There is nothing that stops you from creating your own platform. And in many cases that has worked for people. Creating your platform can mean launching your own record label. It can mean starting your own party, starting your own collective, starting your own social media page that in some way helps promote the local scene.
Yeah.
Get creative with the ways that you can get your name out there that's beyond just the DJ aspect of things. And if that's something that you're interested in, that could be a way for you to also get noticed and carve yourself a little space in your local scene.
Yeah. And you know what? I think we're going to end it before he spills too much secret. Just kidding. But, to end it with this, I think a lot of people always think it's, learn how to make music, DJ, and then get gigs. It's no, learn how to make DJ, something you contribute in the community, and then the gigs. So I think that was a big takeaway from today, and I'm glad we got this all on video. This is a very insightful conversation. One of our longest recordings. We usually end by 10 minutes. This is going like 20 minutes.
Okay, we gotta stop it here.
I had a student that had a good question that they had asked me, and I really wasn't sure how to answer it. And she had asked, would it be smart buying the bookers and talent agents that she knows? Would it be smart to put them on her promo list for when she has releases to send her music to them as a promo?
It's not necessarily a bad idea. I think that she should ask them. Obviously,
yeah, there you go.
I think me getting unsolicited promos in my inbox on an already very full inbox, for me personally, may not work in that artist's favor. But if you're cordially asking me to check out your release or if I would be willing to receive it, I'm more than likely to say yes and to take a listen. I also have DJs sending me their mixes. Again, don't send me a mix every week and expect that I have the time and I'm going to really...
On your drive, bro, on your drive.
But if you do send me your stuff, I will do my best to at least take a listen. Yeah. Also know that for me, I will say that I'm not a music producer and I'm not a DJ. If I'm looking on who to book somebody, I'm more likely to listen to a mix than the track that they produce. I can listen to a track that they produce, but I'm not necessarily going to be the best one to give feedback in terms of production, composition, your mix down, and all of that kind of stuff. It's not really my area of expertise. And this may be the case for a lot of promoters, although I know a lot of promoters are DJs and producers. So also know your audience, because if you're asking me for feedback on your track, I can be like, yeah, it sounds good. Or, you could send me something that's, for example, for lack of, that's a little bit too business tech or commercial for me, for my taste. And so the only response I can give you is my own personal preference on the track. I'm not even going to be able to critique you on the track production itself. And then the conversation can get a little weird. So know your audience, see that they're okay receiving it, And then, yeah, if they're okay receiving a mix or a track here and there, then by all means, I don't see why not. Why not?
Yeah. Marco has one of the better approaches in terms of really this industry. So really appreciate you brother sharing this insight and perspective.
Pleasure.
Hope you had a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could keep talking. So
Yeah.
we gotta end it here.
Yeah, for sure. And look, for those of you who want to ask more questions, please comment below. Be sure to follow us on our social media. Marco will also drop yours and your email address. No, I'm just kidding. We won't do that. But you can DM him on Instagram.
Please don't DM me for this.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
That approach doesn't work. And yeah, but we'll drop all the links. Be sure to check out our courses, the master classes that Gino has. A couple new ones that we're dropping, including your sample pack too. So it's all there. Thank you so much. Once again, Gia with 6 a.m. Artist Map, Kevin SVS with 6 a.m. and Artist Map, Atrox, Faculty of Electronic Music, and the special guest, Marco Sgalbazzini, 6 a.m. Synthetic Minds Work Reform Compound.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Peace.